Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is Roger Knecht, President of Universal Accounting Center, and I am your host. This podcast is dedicated to helping you as accounting professionals to have the premier accounting firm in your area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what you're worth. It's in this process that we intend to address each and every week various topics to help you address the things that you need to work on as a business owner to ensure that you're actually offering quality accounting services, and in doing so, retaining the clients while doing the things that they need you to do to build their businesses and, in fact, have you be their strategic partner. Now, in this process, one of the things that I intend to do each and every week is have on guests where we address topics that range from marketing to sales, client onboarding, to various things that relate to quality accounting services, as well as client retention. It's in these topics that we expect to give you the tips and tricks that you need in order to build your accounting business. Now, I'm expecting to each and every week find individuals that can bring their expertise, their experience to the table to help us. And today is going to be no exception. The guest happens to be Merit Kahn. She is the CEO of SELLect Sales Development, author of Myth Shift, Challenging the Truths That Sabotage Success, and co-host of the Smarter Sales Show podcast. As a certified emotional intelligence coach and as a certified speaking professional, Merit delivers keynotes for conferences and sales kickoffs, consults with sales-driven companies to get them to grow their new business, and provides virtual and on-site training programs for entrepreneurs and sales teams. In her spare time, she performs stand-up comedy and entertains audiences with her inspiring one-woman comedy show, Who Chiseled That Over the Door?, which she wrote and co-produced. Now, with that, welcome to the show, Merit.
Well, thank you, Roger. Happy to be here.
This is going to be fun. So first of all, I'm expecting to have some levity in the conversation, so we'll keep it light. But let's talk about sales. Now, you're in a position where many people, regardless of profession and industry, are trying to sell themselves personally, professionally. It's what we do. But what drew you to make a living out of this?
Well, great question. I've been working with professionals and entrepreneurs and people who are very good at what they do, but very frustrated because it should be easier to make money than it is for the last 20 plus years. And so I feel like somewhere along the line, my gift is I see more possibilities for other people, and I help them figure out which piece of the sales puzzle they most need to focus on so that they can get to some pretty aggressive growth goals without killing themselves or their spirit.
So how did you decide to make a living doing this?
I think it picked me. I've been in sales management, training, coaching, consulting since 1998. Before that, I was managing a sales team at a radio station, and I think the things that I noticed that I liked best about what I did day to day had to do with coaching, inspiring, and developing people. And it had a lot less to do with anything related to the radio industry. And I think that's probably always been in my DNA, just helping people see more for themselves and then realize those possibilities. Even as a child, like being a cheerleader and starting a business selling greeting cards door to door. Like I could have sold other things door to door, but it was about, what product could I sell that would help people feel better, build relationships. And so greeting cards, like I think I've always been wired for it.
That is awesome. So one of the things that I think is a stigma that exists around selling is I'm good at what I do. I love what I do, but I have to sell it. And that just sounds icky. It's almost as if I'm twisting people's arms to do something they don't want to do. How would you address that?
Well, I think the first thing is that, you would imagine the CEO of a sales training and development company would be teaching you to sell. And actually, we take a very different tact. We actually want our clients to stop selling, which is pushy and aggressive and one way. And we want you to start getting selected. So we very deliberately named the business SELLect Sales Development, but we spell it SELLect, not because we don't know how to spell, but because it is all about selling. But when you get the sales process right, you are mutually selecting to do business with your client, and they are mutually selecting to do business with you. And how that happens is through authentic business conversations. So that's the new ABCs of selling, by the way. It used to be always be closing. Don't do that. That's salesy, pushy, and aggressive. That's over. That's that time. That ship has sailed. Um, the new ABCs of selling are authentic business conversations.
Having heard you say that, that brought back a nice flashback. Always be selling. I haven't heard that in a while. That
Right?
is old school.
Always be closing, right?
I
Quick Larry,
love it.
Glenn Ross.
I love it. That is good. All right. So here's something that I would add to this is as I do my sales training, people uncomfortably do come, I feel, to the conversation feeling as if they're trying to compel someone to do something they otherwise wouldn't want to do. And it's imagining that you're in a position where, like you said earlier, a cheerleader. So I was imagining in my mind someone over here trying to get attention, notice me, look at me, and then at that point trying to give me something that I didn't realize I needed. Well, it's kind of akin to when I'm at an excursion, a port of entry, when I'm on a cruise and I walk off the boat and I'm being exposed to all these people that want my attention for excursions and so forth. I just kind of want to say that's not selling, though. That really isn't, and it doesn't have to be that way. What you were sharing a moment ago is more relationship oriented, and the way I choose to look at it is we realize you have an issue or a need. Let's, as two grown adults, work towards a feasible conclusion that will help you resolve whatever situation you're in. And it's a collaborative experience. It's more of a let's find a solution that helps you resolve whatever situation is at hand. And therefore, it's a win-win for both people. So I'm liking already this conversation. So let's go to the origins of all this. And let's start, first of all, with the distinction between marketing and sales. I think for a lot of people, they're synonymous, but in my mind, they're very distinct and very different.
Yeah, they really are. My simple definition is marketing is everything that happens before you're in a conversation. Once the conversation begins, you are in a sales process. And the biggest mistake people make is that they are in a conversation with somebody and then they send someone backwards to a marketing tool. Like if you and I were having a conversation and then I said, well, Roger, have you seen our website? There's a great page. It's frequently asked questions, and that should just take care of anything. Why don't you get familiar with what we do and da da da. I mean, how dumb is that? You're taking somebody backwards in the process. So if you've got many different services that your firm offers, and you can use the website as a tool to guide a conversation. You might say to somebody, look, while we're on the phone together, go to this page on our site and here's what I want you to look at. That's still a sales conversation. But if you get off the phone and think that they're going to spend any more time on your website, the whole purpose of the website is to get them to a conversation with you. So don't go backwards in the system and in the process and take them, to marketing. Marketing is designed to have conversations.
What I'm going to add to that is, well, first of all, thank you for that distinction, because I think that helps in a lot of people's minds understand the differences between each, because you have to have a different mindset when you're, as an owner, marketing your services versus selling your services. And marketing, as I would define it, happens to be all the efforts that we're putting forth to find those potential clients where they self-identify and elect, hey, I'm someone that would be a possible client, a possible customer. Once they're self-identified, filling out a form, making a phone call, reaching out, somehow in that process, the marketing has worked. We've now identified a potential customer. From that point on, as you just mentioned, the conversation begins, and it's a sales system that's meant to educate the potential customer. It's meant to position us as the solution and the experts for the situation at hand, all towards that point of actually having the conversation and asking for the sale. And once the engagement happens, the agreement is made, we're going to then move into customer relations. And so all that I think is very clear. So you talked about the website, you talked about going backwards. I think this would be a good point to bring up the idea of sales funnels. That's kind of a hype right now in the sales world. The sales funnel is something many of us are experiencing online. Can you define what a sales funnel is?
Well, it's anything that's going to, generate some initial interest, and then it's a series of automations or activities. They don't all have to be automated that, take somebody through, a series of touches so that, you're qualifying or disqualifying over a period of time to get to a conversation. Well, I mean, there's a couple ways of looking at a sales funnel. Like, I think of it from a marketing perspective is I want to put a lot of prospects in the top of the sales funnel, and then through a series of activities, qualifying or disqualifying them at the end, what spits out are the most qualified prospects that are going to move through my sales process. That's the primary way of looking at a sales funnel. Um, sometimes people refer to that as the stages of the sales process. So, from like cold, they don't know who I am, outbound outreach, to initial conversation, to qualification, to proposal, negotiation, close, a verbal agreement, waiting for the contract, and then close deal type thing. So there's stages of a sales process, and then there's stages of a sales funnel. And I think those are distinct. Funnel is really more on the marketing to get to qualified lead, and then deal stages are of the sales process is now you're in that conversation.
I like the term stages because I've also used that numerous times because, as you mentioned, it allows us to conceptually put people, let's say, in a proverbial bucket. Where are they in this process? What's the next step or stage that I need to be helping them prepare to move into? And as I go through this, we can come up with very deliberate processes and things along those stages to help them progress. And one of the things that I would add to this is I remember as a youth, the choose your own adventure narratives, the books where you would actually read to page 10, and then you had at the end of the page a choice. I'd go to page 17, page 25, or page 43. And based on what I chose to do with the storyline, I got to choose where I went. And when I went to page 17, I read a page or two more, and then I got to pick where am I going from there. That choose your own adventure is also a narrative that can be done with the sales process, because when you're in the marketing, they come into that funnel, as you mentioned, and where are they going to end up? Each person's need may be different, and what you're doing along the way is helpful. Let's talk about lead magnets. A lot of times people will talk about these, what do we give in order to get? We're going to ask online that they maybe fill out a form, but what are we asking for in exchange for something else, a white paper, an ebook? What can you say to that marketing effort?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think it's important to note that whatever lead magnet or text you have on your website or any other marketing materials, you want to make sure that you're infusing sales language into that marketing piece. So that's something we didn't really touch on, but I want to make sure that I say that because sometimes people get the question, should I do which do I focus on first, sales or marketing? And I think a lot of people, if you just look at it in a sequence, it makes sense, logical sense to get your marketing pieces out into the world and start generating some interest. And then you can worry about your sales conversations because those aren't going to happen until your marketing starts to work. But the reverse is actually true, is actually a better plan. What you want to do is study sales and how to fish for a little bit of pain, really understand the pain points of your prospective clients so that you can infuse those messages into your marketing pieces. And that's what's going to be super important if you want your marketing to be effective in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time and money and probably blow through what could have been well-qualified prospects because you're not speaking to them with the right sales messages. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that piece of the conversation. Now let's talk a little bit more specifically about lead magnets. So the thing that I would recommend is, the purpose of a lead magnet is to be valuable enough that somebody is going to give you their contact information. Now, once you have that contact information, an email, a phone number, depending on what you're asking for, the general philosophy is less is more. The less fields I have to fill out, the more likely I'm going to actually fill it out. So let's say you just get a name and an email address. Well, now you own that information, right? They've chosen to give that to you because in exchange for the value of your lead magnet, right? And so that lead magnet just has to be valuable enough for me to relinquish my contact information. So whether that is completing a survey, a quick download, a short, video course, an ebook, there's a number of different things that could be valuable as lead magnets. What I would say from a sales perspective is a good lead magnet is going to establish that their pain, that you are talking directly to the right kinds of customers, that you understand them, that you're making them think deeper about their issues than they would have otherwise. You want to give them a little bit of a solution, but not so much that they don't need to hire you, right? It's a taste. It's enough to say, that was smart. I want more of that. That consultant, that company, that resource was so helpful. I would like to have more of their value. And so what else do they offer? How else can I work with them? That's really what you want your lead magnet to do. So you really need to think about it as a sales generating tool, as opposed to some piece that's going to give all of the answers.
I like that. The idea here is basically there's an exchange going on. They have their personal information, their name, phone number, email that's perhaps being asked for in the form. What in exchange are you willing to offer them that would meet a need that they have? And in doing so, have a good exchange. But I liked how you said, begin with the end in mind. What's that sell that you're working them towards? What's the offer that you ultimately want to provide? As accounting professionals, there's traditionally three that we try to focus on, and it's in the marketing and selling that we want to emphasize not the work that we do, but obviously the benefits that the client is going to receive. And so we traditionally will emphasize things along the lines of legally lowering their tax liability, helping them increase their cash flow, or more importantly, have money in the bank, as well as third, being profitable, helping them deliberately make profit an intentional thing. Well, when you speak with business owners, those three, or a summation or a portion of those three, will resonate, and that will draw them to learning why is it that you, or how is it that you can address or help me with that. And what you're doing in sales is trying to get that message out there. One of the things that I want to now go to is, if you're marketing and you're selling all the time, you're growing, but sometimes you'll actually get to a point where you've got clients and you're busy, and there's that tendency to want to back off of the marketing and the sales and turn off that faucet. What do you find top performing sales professionals do to consistently grow the business so that they don't go through this feast famine type of a scenario?
Well, there's a number of different things. What we teach in our company is what we call the Open for Business framework. And that's really these three key components to consistent and constant growth and success. Those three pieces are mindset, what you think, mechanics, what you say, and motion, what you do. So when I see entrepreneurs, business owners, and they're sharing with me, well, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have them do a SWOT analysis. So we're really looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the sales part of their business and their growth initiatives. And from that analysis, we can help them see, okay, your biggest gap area, your biggest area for opportunity and improvement is going to be in the motion category. And the reason for that is because of how you answered these questions, which lets me know that, you're pretty good in terms of you've got some strong supportive mindsets. You know what to say in a sales conversation, but I'm not seeing consistent action. And so you're going to find yourself in this roller coaster ride of good month, bad month, because you're busy, and then you're pulling off the gas with prospecting. So the question that, so if this is the one of the three areas that you're going to benefit most quickly and easily from making some small adjustments, now it's a question of, okay, let's pull back the curtain just a little bit more. Let's go a few layers deeper and let's find out, what are you doing on a consistent basis? How much of that is automated? How much can you delegate? What other ways can we do outreach? In what ways, and for some companies this is easier than others, but I'll give you an example. Oftentimes as business owners, we think of ourselves as a painkiller, right?
Uh-huh.
Prospect has this pain and we go in and our service kills their pain, right? We are now their accounting firm. We're going to help lower their taxes and improve cash flow and profitability and all the things. That's one, and maybe they hire us to do one specific thing. Well, that's one option. What I encourage my clients is to also think of themselves as a vitamin pill. So not only are you killing the initial pain, like maybe my books are a mess. I got audited. Like, what's the pain such that I am now shopping for a new firm to handle my needs. And in that case, I want you to first and foremost solve my pain. Don't talk to me about anything else until you fix the problem I brought to you. And then once that's done, now as a business owner, you want to keep them healthy. So here's what we're going to do. We offer our VIP level service, which means we're going to take over your bookkeeping and we're going to make sure that all these things are organized so that you don't have to think about it. And we're going to meet monthly or quarterly. And so you establish different ways that you can work with people, not just as a painkiller, but also as a vitamin.
I'm loving this analogy because I've used something similar, and I think people can relate to this because health is something we all are dealing with. And the analogy that would complement what you're sharing there is, which would you rather go see? Would you rather see the coroner, the doctor, or the physical therapist or the fitness coach? If you're at the coroner level, it's all done. I mean, it's over. There is no turning back. It's just basically at that point, the accountant is telling you what happened in the previous tax year, and you're just paying the tax liabilities. And so we don't want to get to the point where we don't have options or recourse. That coroner, they're very intelligent. They know what's going on. They can do an autopsy, but at that point, you're dead and you can't do anything about it. The doctor, that's a great place to be because when the pains exist like you're describing, we can address those pains and we can assess and diagnose what needs to be done and perhaps offer a solution. But wouldn't it have been better if we went back and maybe went to the gym and worked with a physical coach, or maybe worked with some rehabilitation and tried to remedy some things, maybe worked with a nutritionist to get on a healthier diet? That's that pill that you're talking about that as accounting professionals, if we're constantly working with our clients and meeting with them on a monthly basis, we can get to things and address things and draw their attention to things long before they become these terminal issues that sometimes businesses face simply because they avoid the accounting because they don't know the role we're playing in that field. So great analogy, well said. That brings me to a question. You were talking about like an emotional intelligence, salespeople understanding what's going on. What are some helpful things to know and understand? Like, is sales more of a mindset? Is it a skill thing? Is it just the fact that we're taking action and doing something about sales? What would you want to add about that?
Well, it's definitely all three. And, like I mentioned earlier, it's mindset is what you think, mechanics is what you say, and motion is what you do. And so to be successful, I would say, in anything you do is going to be some aspect of all three of those things. What people get tripped up with is, especially in sales, is they're very focused on, well, what do I say to close a deal? What do I say to find their pain? What do I say when someone asks me, what do you do? And what do I say in this marketing piece? And those are all very important things to be in action on and to work with somebody who is skilled in sales language and sales philosophy and all of that. But to the extent that your mindset might sabotage you from even getting started, that's where mindset really helps you or hurts you. And I think, lifelong learners are at a huge advantage. People who have optimism about the future, their assertiveness, they're assertive, they're not aggressive, right? That's distinct. So aggressive is saying what you want to say, regardless of how it's going to land on somebody else. Being assertive is saying what's appropriate for the situation in a way that is appropriate for the listener, right? That, you're aware of emotions and things like that. So I think, when, I guess, let me say it like this. When we work with our clients on strengthening your mindset for sales or leadership, we're really looking at mindset in three categories. So there's your internal mind, that's what you say to yourself. There's your behavioral mind, what your actions say to other people. And then there's your emotional mind. And that's how well you understand the impact that you have on other people and the things that trigger you in good and bad ways. So those breaking it down into those aspects of mindset is what has helped us really work with people so that they can have big strides in a mindset capacity. Otherwise, everybody says, oh, mindset is important. Okay, well, what does that mean? Do I need to start meditating? Do I need to go on some retreat and not talk for 2 weeks? Like, what does that mean to work on your mindset? And I think by breaking it down into those three categories, it makes it tangible and possible for you to take an inventory of the beliefs you have about business, money, sales, decision making, your self-worth. And then you can freely choose to keep those beliefs that support you or return them if they were hand-me-down beliefs that no longer fit or, that never fit, like that cousin the sweater from your cousin that's always been 3 sizes too big and it's still in your closet. Well, that's a hand-me-down and you need to hand it back. So just like a sweater that didn't fit, there might be a belief that fit you when you were 21 and a recent college graduate. But now that you've been a business owner, you have employees that rely on you, you have a family, you have much bigger lifestyle goals and business aspirations. Those initial ideas about what is a lot of money and what you're worthy of earning are old and outdated. And so by looking at doing a belief inventory, you get to freely choose as an adult with an adult perspective, the beliefs that are going to support you and your current aggressive goals.
So always be closing. I can put that aside now.
Yes, you can get rid of that one.
There you go. Okay, good.
I have eliminated that from your mind.
Yes, we have. Well, actually, you brought it back, and I'll set it aside. The thing I like about mindset, skills, action, as you were describing those, is those do really well address, I think, the elements of what a successful person needs to be considering when selling their services. Action. So many times I'm working with people and they're just not doing anything when it comes to marketing or selling. They just don't have anything that's going on. Second, skills. There is a skill. Do you have a process? Is there a system? Are you using a CRM? Is there something going on with regards to skills as to your abilities to close the deal, negotiate the deal, come up with pricing, to be competitive, to be compelling? I mean, there's a lot of skills in there, but mindset, the word I've always used when I've been doing the training is the word confidence. You need to have the ability to look a business owner in the eyes and be able to say to them that I can take care of your accounting needs and with confidence mean it. They need to be able to look at you and see that you have a degree of confidence. And however you get that, whether it be through the training, experience, certifications, whatever it is that it takes for you to be confident, that's what you're looking for, because until you have the confidence to say that you can deliver on what you're offering, that sense of doubt, it's almost like people can see it in you, and you have to do whatever it takes to eliminate that. And that's where I think that idea of mindset that you were sharing is so critical, those 3 elements of it, because all of those together bring out the confidence. And then you can go into those situations using the skills, having that action that's taking place and close the deal.
Well, let me say a little bit about that confidence piece, because I agree with everything that you said. I would just say that, early in my career, I remember people telling me things like, act as if you're the success you want to be. And I think, we all know we want to project confidence. And certainly that can backfire in a multitude of ways when we get the wrong balance of confidence. We can come across cocky and, arrogant, and nobody wants to do business with somebody like that. But I think, and it's frustrating for people maybe who are newer to the field or newer business owners, or, just not quite, there's a certain amount of swagger that you have. There's a way that I'm able to have this conversation with you because I have 20 plus years of experience in my work. There's a certain confidence that comes through in my speaking. But at one time I didn't have that same skill set. And so how did I project confidence? And I think the best thing, and I will say I stumbled into it. I was, it was a happy accident, but I learned to ask good questions. And it was because I asked really good questions that my expertise was evident to the people that I was talking with. So what I would offer to your listeners is get confident about the questions that you want answers to that will benefit your prospective clients and current clients. It's the questions that you ask that let them know that you have the expertise that they need. It's not what you tell them that's going to make the difference. It's what you ask them. And when you are a person that has them think deeper about their business, their life, their financials, than anybody else they've talked to, that's the person they want in their corner.
So I'm going to first of all just say amen, and I'm going to complement it with these three things. First of all, you are right. Confidence, when done incorrectly, its evil imposter is cockiness. When you come across arrogant, it is not going to be helpful. It's self-defeating, and associated with it is what a lot of people will experience, which is referred to as imposter syndrome. If you're faking it, they can see that as well. So your point to say questions is spot on. And the easiest way that I've learned to do this, and I've had success teaching others, is just like you said, ask great questions. Curiosity, simple, genuine curiosity, that interest in that potential customer, as you're asking the business owner about their company, why they started the business, how they got into business, why they sell what they sell, why it's different from their competition, just curiosity about how they make their money. All of those questions are typically indications that you care and that you're interested, and no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. It's a Stephen Coveyism. And one of the things that I think is so true about that is the fact that most people don't bother to ask the questions. They rather tell, as you're describing, and it's in that process that the person gets turned off. If you can be that unique individual that bothers to ask all these curious questions, their defenses come down, they become more relaxed, and through rapport, you're going to be able to now start having a sales conversation because they don't feel like they're talking to a salesperson anymore. They all of a sudden feel as if they're speaking to, if I dare say, a friend. And in that process, they're willing to open up a little bit more, and they're willing to consider your services because no longer is it me against you. It's more of a win-win relationship. How's this sounding to you?
Yeah, it sounds really great. And I think there's a question that I've always found incredibly helpful, not only to ask myself to see what the potential is to expand my own business, but also as a starting point for any customer or potential client relationship. And that is, have you already decided it can't get any better? Or are you open to a new possibility? And I will tell you that one question, first of all, when I am invited to large association conferences or sales kickoff meetings, corporate annual events, things like that, as an opening keynote speaker, that's one of my favorite ways to open a keynote, to open a conference, by asking people, all right, here's where you're at in your industry. Like, here's the research. Here's what I've learned about your business. Have you already decided it can't get any better? Or are you open to a new possibility? And there's two things that are happening in that question. First of all, like we've been talking about, the question changes the outcome. The question is what has people tune in. The question is what has me sound like an expert, and show up as an expert, because now I am immediately into what's most important to them, which is their own future, their own possibilities, their own open-minded ideas. And I'm challenging them. Are you open to a new possibility? Are you open to it, the possibility that it could get even better than it is right now? If you're not, then our conversation's over. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to say if you're coming to a conversation with a closed mind. But open minds close deals. And the first step to a closed deal is always going to be an open mind. So the first thing that I need to do as a business owner is to open your mind to a new possibility. And then once you acknowledge, yes, I am open to, other possibilities. Great. Now let's have a conversation about where you're at, what's not perfect yet, and if we're the right match to help get you to the next, advancement.
Tony Robbins says, a confused mind says no. Here you are saying, to open the mind, we need to show the possibilities and see, are they willing to entertain these possibilities, to open up the mind and see the potential. So I'm curious, how does this apply or relate to what it is that you talk about, this concept of redeciding?
Okay, so two things on that. One is, if somebody can't say yes or no, they can't select to work with you if they're not open to hearing what the opportunity is, or what the solution is, or what the questions are. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. And I love Tony Robbins, and I totally agree with that. A confused mind never buys. And so you want to first open their mind, make sure that what you're saying is not confusing, so that they can select the right solution and everybody's happy. Redeciding is this idea that sometimes we make a decision, and I was always told, and I wrote about this in my first book, which is called Myth Shift, Challenging the Truths That Sabotage Success. And I have a whole chapter on redeciding. And because so many leaders that I had been working with were saying things to me like, as the leader of an organization, I have to set the course and stick to it no matter what. And at first, that sounds like good advice. Like, you're going to power through, you're going to find a way. That's your role as the leader. You need to inspire everybody to get on board with the decisions that you've made. The problem is, if new information comes into your experience that might render that initial decision irrelevant, then if you stick to it no matter what, you're on a course for disaster. And so I needed to give the leaders that I've been working with new language to feel more powerful and in control about changing their course. Not from a standpoint of, it's seen as weak to change your mind and flip-flop and be wishy-washy. And, nobody wants to follow somebody who's constantly changing direction. It's confusing. It's time-consuming. It's aggravating. It's frustrating. And so that's not a good thing for a leader. But let's take the already exhausted, universal experience of the pandemic. And I will say, my business model, January 1st, 2020, my all of my plans of action, all of my marketing strategies, my sales strategies, my revenue streams were all contingent on speaking at large events. And if I had that stick to it no matter what mindset, then when everything shut down on March 11th of 2020, I would have starved for these last couple of years. But instead, I took my own advice, which is, okay, I need to redecide not only my action plans to reach my income, revenue goals for my business, but also the goals themselves and the whole business model around it. And because I was able to redecide, it didn't feel it didn't feel like I was at the mercy of what was happening. Never felt like a victim. I was like, okay, I can look at the marketplace. I can see the I can see it for what the reality that it is, and I can redecide my goals, my business model, my action plans, my team. I need new and different people on a team. I didn't need a virtual producer before. Now I do, right? I didn't need a tech person on staff. Now I do. And so, a lot of new decisions are made when we're able to look at the landscape and powerfully redecide in the face of new information.
So with that change, that evolution that you had to make, and believe me, all of us had to go through it, especially any of us that survived. If anything, pat ourselves on the back and realize that you've got some stripes here because of this. But what the thing I want to take from this is the fact that you did adapt, and from a sales perspective, you found new ways to market your services, generate those leads, then work those and sell them. So I'm curious, a salesperson, at some point we get, I'm going to use the word confidence again, we feel comfortable in our own skin. What do you say to a person who is realizing they need to sell? This is how they make their livelihood, but they just are reluctant to refer to themselves as a salesperson, or they're reluctant to embrace this strategy of selling. How do you get them to feel more comfortable with and embrace the idea that they can, in fact, be successful selling their product or service?
Well, the first thing is I'm never in an argument with reality. So if you're a person that thinks, sales is a dirty word, I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. But I'm going to meet you where you are. And I'm going to say, okay, let's go with that. That's fine. Have whatever beliefs you need to have. But tell me a little bit about, when somebody works with you, do they feel, do they regret it? Do they, do you have some testimonials? Like, are people happy when they've used your services? Well, yeah. Okay. Do you want more people to feel like that? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, let's just work on what's comfortable for you in terms of helping people get to that place where they recognize your expertise. They see that your expertise would match the challenges that they're dealing with, and that an appropriate offer is good for both involved. And so, let's not worry about the terminology, whether you call it business development or account management or, sales or whatever. Doesn't matter to me. I'm really out there. My mission in life is to teach people to stop selling. I'm not out there to, yes, I have great questioning techniques and great questions that I can teach somebody to set expectations for a new client relationship or a prospective client conversation. But if you're coming from a place of that's truly, it's got to be good, mutually good for everybody, then you're not going to use these skills for evil. You're going to use them for good. And in that case, you don't have to think about it. It's not selling like pushy and aggressive. It's being selected. And that feels really good. So I think I've been very good at helping people because I've worked with so many professionals who never in a million years would call themselves salespeople. They didn't go to school for that. They didn't go to all the extra training and get, professional designations to be considered a salesperson. But then, they open their own firm and, unfortunately, what it turns out is it doesn't matter if you're good at what you do. You could be the best at what you do, but the guy down the hall is better at the sales part, then they're going to get more business. And my philosophy, this is a mindset piece that leads to better skills and practice, is I'm not doing anyone any favors by not asking them tough questions so that they can figure out whether or not we can, we should do business together. So I want to ask tough questions. I want them to grill me and really feel comfortable that I'm a good match for what they need that's going to help them, elevate their business.
I appreciate that. One of the things that I would add is that there's a phrase we use, which is nothing happens until you make a sale. And to your point, it doesn't matter how great you are as an accountant, tax advisor, anything along those lines. You could be phenomenal in those skill sets and the strategies you can bring to the table. But unless you have paying customers, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. And so when I'm dealing with accounting professionals that are phenomenal in their careers, but take on for a few, clients over a weekend and weeknights, they work with a few businesses, they supplement their income and they're happy. But that decision to go full time and make it a primary income and start growing their business, it involves them now having to sell because the low-hanging fruit's gone away. And the same's true for a firm where somebody makes partner or they get themselves in a situation where now they're responsible to growing the business, not just taking care of the clients. And as they are transitioned into more of a sales role within the company, sometimes they're a little reluctant because like you pointed out, they didn't go through their careers getting all of this experience and education to then be called a salesperson. And so there is that challenge, but I loved how you said you meet them where they are and you begin working with them where they're at, because honestly, at the end of the day, it's not that bad of a thing. All we're doing is we're helping people in situations resolve what's going on and put them in a better light. And what we're trying to do is really improve for business owners their business ROI, their margins, their profit. We're helping in so many ways, limiting their liability in taxes. So there's a lot to be said that we can offer that can be beneficial to those paying customers that we work with. So well said.
I was just going to say 100%. And when you do sign up a new client, there's probably some very specific steps that you take them through right at the beginning to kind of jumpstart the relationship. And and we do the same thing in our company. We actually developed a program. We call it Digital Jumpstart, but it's a lot of times people think, oh my gosh, growing sales, that's so overwhelming. There's so much to learn. I don't want to think of myself as a salesperson. Well, okay, let's do these 10 things. Let's get you clear on your goals. Let's get you clear on your target client. Let's get you clear on the ways that you're going to go to market, your top 100 target, prospect list, what you say to introduce yourself at an event or in your marketing pieces. Like, there's some basic building blocks. And if you did nothing else with us, if you do those things, you will be in much more, you'll be poised to be in consistent action, growing sales. You can't go through all of these 10 things and not see a revenue result based on your deliberate focus in these 10 areas. And then once you've done that, now we can talk about fancy techniques and different question techniques and all these other, things that are more advanced sales, strategies. But I think for most businesses, what we've seen is let's block and tackle. Let's not get too crazy. Let's do these 10 specific things. And then that starts to build your confidence and you're ready for the next pieces.
There you go. I like to say, let's go back to the basics, but just not always be closing.
Exactly. Not that one.
All right. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm thinking this conversation is great. I think that in the little bit that we've done here today, we've given some great nuggets, some enjoyable things. But let me just ask you a few quick questions on a personal note. With regards to your business, what freedoms do you feel have come to you being the business owner that you are now that you have this company where you're thriving and helping people? How's your life changed being a business owner?
Oh, well, that's easy. I have the freedom to work all the freaking time.
Amen. I'm not going to change that one.
Oh my God. There's so much I love about being a business owner. I mean, I've had my own business since 1998. I've always had a home office, even when I've had a training center. I've always, been able to work from home if I wanted to. I've got a lot of time freedom. I can make as much or as little money based on how much I want to work, or I can change direction. I don't have to ask anybody for permission to add a new course or develop a new keynote or a new way I'm going to serve clients. I love the creative. I'm a visionary. What I wasn't always good at is the execution piece. I always, in early years, I tried to do too much myself. And what I've discovered over time is that my gift is seeing the big picture and and working with others to collaborate on the execution of that. I've gotten a lot farther, a lot faster when I've really leaned on others to do things that are in their zone of genius that is not mine. So, for that, being a business owner has taken me to different places in the world that I might not have gone to otherwise. And I really enjoy working with other business owners that are singing the same songs that I have. I relate and I understand their frustrations and the opportunities and possibilities for them and their lifestyle. And I love it. I would be unemployable. I don't think I could ever work for anybody. I just have too much freedom and creativity that I enjoy.
Freedom and creativity to work as much as you darn well want.
Exactly.
Exactly. So let's go to your comedy thing. I have to ask about this. So you've got your stand-up comedy routine. Have you traveled with that? Is it something you do local? Have you been on any shows?
Well, it's interesting. I started studying stand-up comedy in 2014. The purpose was to be more deliberately funny in my business keynotes. And the outcome of taking this comedy class was that I really love writing original comedy. It's actually, I think personally, the best therapy you'll ever have is writing about things that frustrate you and then looking at that as a third party observer and asking yourself questions like, that's interesting. I wonder why that resonated with me. What's interesting about that? What's funny? What's embarrassing about that? Like, let's take that to an extreme. And so I've really enjoyed that. And so it just became a hobby. Now I have been paid to, deliver my comedy. So technically I'm a professional. But mostly I perform locally. I've done some shows in Toronto, and so I guess I'm international. And I'm going to be doing some comedy in Southeast Asia this summer while I'm there for business. So, it's fun for me. The real thing that I love is the one woman show that I wrote and produced and performed. Unfortunately, the timing wise, that was right before the pandemic, and I had plans to go on a tour with that show and to a number of cities, but I had to put that on hold. So I'm looking to do that. The tour will officially kick off November 2022 in Denver. And I hope to take that to several cities across America in 2023. And then I'm also pairing that. So the comedy show is sort of the looking at the ups and downs of our life through the lens of comedy. So I basically tell my life story as a comedy skit. But it's not really my life story. It's all of our life story, right? We've all had ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is if you can experience the way that I have learned to look at my life through the lens of comedy, then you can apply that lens to your own life. And so I'm pairing that because I have a training, coaching, background. I took myself through some very specific exercises to turn my life into a comedy show. And I'd like to be able to take other people through that same experience. So I'm working on not only the show and the tour, but also pairing that with some quarterly 2-day retreats that I'll do to help people understand and find the humor in their own lives.
Yep. So what would you describe the difference to be between laugh with me versus laugh at me?
Laugh at me is when comedians do self-deprecating humor. Laugh with me is, look, I can see the comedy. I can see that I learned something from this. I can see the ridiculousness in this, and I'm inviting you to come along with me on that. So it's a very different way. I have to be very conscious in my humor, especially my corporate humor, because I'm always writing, jokes for my keynotes for business audiences, and they don't necessarily want self-deprecating humor, right?
No.
Like,
yeah.
You just paid me a lot of money to talk to all of your top people. You don't want me to come in there and be like, yeah, I'm down on my luck or whatever. Like, it's just like that kind of humor isn't gonna fly. So,
Yep.
but it's also, it can't be, polarizing or any of those things. So I I've learned, I studied comedy from a stand-up, legitimate stand-up comedians who maybe look at things a little bit differently than I do with a business lens. But I've learned to find ways to help audiences laugh with me and not at me, because I'm never going to get rehired in a business context if people are laughing at me.
There you go. So I'm going to ask two questions here. One, I might be aging myself, but regardless, I'm going to ask it. Pick between one of the three: Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Second one. Are you familiar with dry bar comedy?
Yes.
I love dry bar. They're here local. They started here, as I understand it. Funny as ever. Love it. And my favorite routine that he's had a number of stage performances. It's the Mountain Dew guy. So I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's hysterical. So anyways.
I don't know that one, but a good friend of mine has a dry bar bit. So I'll give a shout out plug to my friend Nancy Norton, who I've performed with several times locally in Colorado. And so she's got a dry bar set that I think is very funny.
Yep. I love this. Thank you. This has been fun. Merit, I think this is just a great conversation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to quickly summarize what it is I felt that we've discussed and then come back to you for a closing thought. In this process, let me just first of all start by mentioning the offer. The idea is for you as listeners, go to the podcast episode description. In the description, you're going to find a few of the things that were brought up today. First of all, Merit has been kind enough to offer us what is referred to as your SWOT analysis. And it's there in the episode description. You'll find the information you need to go get your SWOT analysis as it relates to sales. And then she also mentioned the digital jumpstart, and you'll find the information there for you to take advantage of that. You'll also find information related to selling, which is the turnkey business plan as it relates to strategic selling and selling with confidence. And so you want to check out a little bit more about that, as well as the webinar regarding the universal CRM, how you can use it to automate and systemize your selling process. So with all that being said, I do want to summarize a few of the highlights that I took from today's discussion. Definitely the conversation began as it should have, where we were talking about marketing and sales and how the two distinguish themselves. More importantly, how to properly do the marketing and selling. We really talked about mindset, skill, and actions, three elements that need to exist when properly selling. It takes all three of those skills. And in mindset, she was very good at defining three elements that really make up a confident person. And we define confidence as very, very clearly not someone that is cocky or overbearing. And I think that was an excellent part of the discussion. We also got into things that were related to mindset, as how do you get the person to open up their mind and see potential, opportunity, be willing to consider options, and it's in that the sale can be made. Lots of gems, lots of good things. Definitely worth even going back and re-listening to various parts of this if you didn't already take some great notes. Now, with all that being said, love the comedic discussion. Definitely proud to say that she also said Abbott and Costello. Love them, brought my kids to their attention, and they love them as well. So that's always nice. So Merit, what final thoughts would you have for our conversation today?
Well, I appreciated the summary. That was fantastic. I just would offer that, if anybody was intrigued by any of the things that we talked about and wanted to keep the conversation going, there's always a Let's Talk button on my website, meritcahn.com. And don't be shy. Book some time, even if it's a free 15-minute connect. I'm always open to having conversations with business owners who are in growth mindset. And on that note, you can always, that's a good way to find out when the comedy show is going to come to your town too. So keep in touch with me or reach out on LinkedIn. Those are always good ways to connect.
Perfect. So with all that being said, everyone, thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the podcast. Get notifications as to each of our episode releases when we have them come out each and every week on Wednesday, and we have some bonus ones that will appear periodically as well. It's with those you can actually go back through the episodes and listen to topics that you feel are applicable to your current situation and hear what the experts also have to share. In addition to this, if you would like more information about these principles and other things that you can apply in your business to in fact become the premier accounting firm in your area, reach out to us at universalaccounting.com or give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and be safe out there, everybody.